this session, all of them that we're going to cover today should be also dedicated to Refuah Shlema, our dear Rabbi Yaron Reuven. His name is Yaron Ben Doris. Also, Yehudis Bas Noach, Ariel Ora Bas Anna, Mimar Rachel Bas Brandel, David Shlomo Ben Sandra, quick release of Moshe Shmuel Ben Pnina, BeEzrat HaShem, and Tzlacha Rabba to Geveres Chana Bas Abraham Avinu and the whole family, BeEzrat HaShem. And so we continue today with our book, with our class, Shabbos Home, and we start new chapter number 21, and our topic is Melachah of involvement preparing wool. Okay, so let's see. So some of these things actually apply to us, and some of them do not apply, right? So we'll see. We try to explain. I mean, I see like it's volume 2. It's they refers to the volume 1. Okay, so let's start. BeEzrat HaShem. The following 13 Melachos. So out of 39, so it's like 30%. Right? The following 13 Melachos are based on activities performed in the Mishkan while preparing the wool for the use of the curtains. Because these Melachos have a few practical applications for most people nowadays, we have combined them in a single chapter. The only one of these Melachos that merits a chapter of its own is in this volume is Tzoveya. Tzoveya is dyeing. Some of these Melachos have been discussed in our early volumes. Instead of repeating the discussion here, we have shown where they can be found in other volumes. The 13 Melachos involved preparing the wools are as follows. Okay, so let's before we continue, quickly introduction. So 13 Melachos that were used in the Mishkan to prepare wool. They use wool for a curtain, but also for covering. As we said, there is one of the layers of covering of the Mishkan was also wool. Okay, and some of them, right, you have to bleach them, you have to dye them, and stuff like that. Okay, so let's see. So let's starting from one. Sharing. For discussion, this Melachah says Shabbos Home. So sharing, so you're not allowed to cut. So right, so as we said, I don't know, long time ago. So you cannot cut something that was attached to the source of growth, right? So in this case, for example, you cannot allow cut nails or cut hair, right? Continue next one, laundering. So laundering, it's also from the first volume. So launder, we said it's not allowed to launder, and on a rabbinical level, as we explained, it's also not allowed to dust, right? If it's something dusty, so you're not allowed to clean it. Okay, launder. So meaning the Melachah of launder is something that was dory, and with a liquid, somebody makes it cleaner. Okay. Next one is combing. So combing, actually, he said see below. Okay, so it's next one. Dyeing. So chapter 22. So it's next chapter. So it's like a big chapter. Actually, we spoke about this dyeing. So where in a Shabbos kitchen. Right, where we discuss what cleaning from the table, right? For example, somebody spilled wine, right, on the tablecloth. So in some sense, right, the tablecloth now changed color. So in a sense, a person dyed it. Of course, was not an intention. Hopefully, right, if it's your tablecloth, but we discuss how can clean up this mess. Right, and with what? So we said the best is to do disposable napkins. So you just right, to just get this wine together, like absorb into napkins. No squeezing, throw out. Otherwise, it could be a problem when, for example, somebody tried to clean up with a piece of garment, right, or a towel. Could be a problem. Okay. So next one is spinning. So spinning is right. It's making the wool thread. Okay, they say see below. Okay, we're going to get to it. Mounting a warp on a loom. See below also, right? So all of these things do not apply to us. It's like how do you make the woolen thread? Okay. Setting two heddles. So I mean all of these words, if you've never heard of them, so you have to check the picture. So basically, like a simple explanation is some kind of equipment. So you have two frames, right, with the threads. One like it's making material, right, like fabric, right. So one goes up and down, and one is left to right and right to left, right. So to make fabric. So okay, weaving. Okay, see below. Okay, number 9, removing two threads. Also see below. Tying. So tying, we spend a lot of time, Baruch Hashem, in the previous volume. So we said they're not allowed to tie knots, right? We said professional knots, right? There were two opinions, right? I think Rashi and Ramban or Rosh, I don't remember exactly, but they were a little different. But we said that we should go by the middle opinion, right? Middle approach. So meaning to try to satisfy all of the opinions. And that's why we're not allowed to tie permanent knot on Shabbos. So next one, 11, untying. So untying, we said it's not part of the tying. It's a separate melacha. So whatever is not allowed to tie on Shabbos, it's not allowed to untie on Shabbos. Unless we said, for example, somebody that did it by mistake. He intended to untie or she intended to untie but forgot. That's a different story. Next one is sewing. So sewing, it's actually it's chapter 6 in the first volume. So long time ago. So you're not allowed to sew. And sew, we said actually it's not only sew with needle and thread. It's actually we gave a definition. I mean, of course, in the Mishkan it was with needle and thread, but we said definition attaching two separate materials or two ends of the same material, right? With any type of attachment. It could be glue, could be, I don't know, right, a different type of attachment, permanent attachment, right? So for example, Velcro is not part of this because does not mean that it's not designed to stay permanent. Okay, but all of glues, other things are permanent. Or a zipper also, it's not part of it. Okay, so and number 13, the last one, is tearing. Korea. So tearing, we also said tearing was a step before sewing, right? We said on a curtain when this insect, as in moths or something, right? They would make holes because they eat wool, right? In a curtain, so they would prolong the cut, right? And it would be easy to mend it. So, but our rabbis say any tearing, like for even for a destructive purpose, should not be done, right? For a constructive purpose, should not. Needless to say, for example, one of the examples, of course, tearing the toilet paper, tearing the paper towel or something. Okay, so not allowed. Right. So all of these things, for example, if a person wants to use a paper towel, somebody asked me a question several months ago. So right, and they say, how come not allowed? They heard one of classes. I don't know. I'm not sure what class it was. Complete class or just a clip. I'm not sure. So I said, but you can pre-cut before that, right? Before Shabbos. That's what we do, right? Have I don't know, spend 5 minutes. 3 minutes of your life, you can listen to lecture while doing that, and you can cut these paper towels, bend fold them and store somewhere. So on Shabbos, when something happens, so you have, and I always tell people have a little extra because you don't know when the day comes when somebody's going to spill, then you need a lot of extra. It happens to the best of us, so no problem. Just have a little extra, but no chilling. All right. So let's continue with is number 1. It says common. So subsection 1, the prohibition. Common. The raw wool is made up of the mixture of short and long fibers. Okay. Before spinning the short fibers, are removed, right, and are removed through the process known as combing. The wool used during the building of the Mishkan underwent this procedure. The Mishkan activity is a sort of Melachah of Menafetz, right? Common. So what does it mean? Okay, so quickly again. So as we understand, when they cut sheep, some have a longer wool pieces of fiber, some of them shorter, right? So now they need to get only the longer one, right? And from here we know that we're not allowed to comb our hair, right? I think we discussed it, but maybe not. I think we discussed it, right? We're not allowed to comb our hair on Shabbos, right? With a comb, but just fix your hair with your hands and it should be sufficient. Okay, right? Why? Because most probably, if somebody would use a comb or a brush, would pull out some hair. Maybe yes, maybe this hair already fell before Shabbos. Like go try to prove it. Okay. So number 2, practical application. Common hair, common wig. Okay, common wig. Okay. The Melachah of Menafetz, common, applies only to the fibers that will be made into a thread. It does not apply to the hair or on a person's head. One who combs his hair on Shabbos does not violate the Melachah of common. But okay, but like plucking, right? For the same reason, one who combs a wig on Shabbos does not violate the Melachah of common. Okay, so not this Melachah, but right, there is Melachah that you cannot what is it called? That you cannot gather the produce. Right, and they said this Melachah applies to something that grows from the ground, and same with a person, right? As we explained many times, person in a sense grows also from the ground. Okay. So let's see from the beginning. So this Melachah of common applies only to the fibers that will be made into a thread. So what does it mean? As with everything, these melachas must be done for a positive, constructive purpose. Like, for example, this tearing. Just quick example. Tearing, it was done for constructive purpose, or what of fixing the hole, right? Or even demolishing. We did not get to demolition, sorry. But let's say there is one Melachah demolition. So demolish only for constructive purpose, meaning demolition in order to build something on that place, or maybe in a bigger place than it was in your way. So that's for a constructive purpose. So to demolish something without intention building something on its place and without any other reason, it would be on rabbinic prohibition, not biblical one. Okay, so that's why he's saying same is here, right? Common meaning right. It's in a sense a very similar process that you do with a sheep, right? With the goats. That's how Russia explained the best goats wool would be when the women know how to make the threads right from the animal itself, so like without cutting the hair. With goats, I don't know how to do that, but that was the best threads. Okay. All right. So this Melachah again does not apply to the hair on a person's head, right? So one who comes on Shabbos does not violate the Melachah of Coloring, but on the bottom he said violate many other Melachas. Okay, so just to remind us, we don't use comb or brush on Shabbos. So the only exception, if I remember correctly, so he said if you have usually your hair very, very strong, right, that does not fall out easily, right, and you have this soft brush, very soft brush, meaning, so if you have entangle or something hair, so it's going to, right, you're going to feel it, and it's not going to force it, okay, meaning that's the only brush that is allowed. And plus we said, if I remember correctly, we also said that it must be set out for Shabbos only. Okay. So, okay, continue. So next one is spinning. Toiveh. Right, spinning. Spinning is twisting together the fibers to make long threads. This activity performed in the Mishkan and is therefore prohibited on Shabbos. I'm not sure. One second, let me quickly say. There is no practical application. So I think, as he said in the beginning, it's like we don't do these things. So spinning is like that's how you make a thread into long ones. So the fibers, they like catch one to another, and that's how you make a long thread. Okay, so number 3, Meseich, mounting a warp onto the loom. So again, these two frames, you can look on internet. One is going up and down, one is left to right, right to left. Okay. This refers to the act of arranging thread in a warp, right, upon a loom, in a preparation weaving. This activity, along with the three that follow, constitute the process of weaving. We therefore present brief introduction to the process. Okay, weaving loom is a frame. Here we go, upon which 2 rolls are mounted. One is called warp beam, and is at the far end, away from the weaver. Okay, and the other called the cloth beam. It is near the end, right, close to the weaver. The warp threads are wound around the warp beam and stretch to the cloth, stretch to the cloth beam, while eventually hold to the newly woven cloth. So, okay. Okay, I'm not okay. So let's read. I'm not going to repeat, but that's what I think it's easier to see the pictures. Weft threads are then introduced between the warp threads to produce woven fabric. So again, it goes like this and like this, and right, if you look at the fabric, right, that's how it is made, right? Especially in olden days. Today there are more fine fabrics, like the threads are tiny, so you cannot see. But sometimes you see like we would like more like bigger threads, thicker threads, so you can see clearly. Next one, the Melachah of mounting a warp, and is a process of stretching the warp threads from beam to beam. Okay, from beam to beam. The person who mounts a warp is called a loom dresser. Meseich. I'm not sure. Loom dresser. Okay. For the further details regarding this Melachah, see this and that. Okay, I'm going to skip. So next one. So number 4, setting 2 heddles. So again, it's a process of weaving. Between the 2 beams and the perpendicular to them, there are 2 frames called harnesses, through which the warp thread must pass. Each of these harnesses has numerous threads attached to it. Each pair is adjacent. Of the adjacent thread on a harness is knotted in 2 places to form a loop, right, or eye. Okay, and back and forth at the center. This pair of threads is called the heddle. Heddle may also be made by tying the ring between the 2 heddles of thread. Modern hand looms often use a metal strip pierced in the center. Okay. The warp thread passes through the eye of a needle in the first harness and between the two needles in the second harness. The first warp thread passes between the two handles, and the first harness passes through the eyes of the needle in the second harness, and so on. Placing the threads through the needle's eye constitute the Melachah of setting two handles. For further details, see source cited in section 3. Okay, we're not going to see. Okay, so I'm not going to repeat all of this. Again, I think it's easier to see the pictures. Right. Weaving. The weaver arrays two frames alternatively. Right, alternative, one then another. This is called shedding. First, he raises the front frame. This carries with the harness containing the odd warp threads to form an opening called shed between the two sets of warp threads. The weft is passed through this shed from the right to left. This is called picking. The weaver then raises the even warp threads by lowering the front frame and raising the back one, and passes the weft through left to right, passing the weft thread twice through the warp, right to left and left to right, constitute Melachah of weaving. Okay, and the last one, poetzeia, removing two handles. The Melachah of poetzeia is performed by eliminating excess threads from the area of loom that are densely packed. Okay, not going to repeat. So that's let's continue. So now, as he said, and right, it's more practical. So all of this. So I see we got a little discount. All of these things do not apply to us. At least 4 or 5 or how many. But now this one that does apply to us. So it's we're in chapter number 22, and its the topic is Veya, coloring. So section number 1 of Melachah, Veya, coloring, which translates as a coloring or dyeing. So dyeing, I think is a better word, is one of the 39 Avos Melachas. The Melachah was performed during the construction of the Mishkan, when dyeing of the wool and animal hides for its various curtains and covers, right? So of course we know the curtain, other like spreads of the Mishkan where they dyed, skins of animals. Of course they would dye. Right, 1 second. Animal hides, various curtains. Right. So many things they were, and all these things about plowing, seeding, and watering, all of these things, plucking, actually they precede this Melachah of dyeing. So we said we connected all of these activities just to remind us, right? With growing herbs for what? To make dye. That's how we make dye, right? And then mixing together. Right, dye with cook them, right? So cooking comes also from here, right? You have what is it, dry herbs, so you need to cook them in order to make dye. Okay. So continue. So you see, learn these things like here and there from different books. Now it's they're going to put everything together, BeEzrat HaShem. So part number 2, section number 2, definition. The definition of Tzoveya, dyeing, is improvement of beautification of the object by coloring, dyeing, or painting it. Okay, so he's very precise with his definition. Right. So as we explained in a kosher kitchen, if it's dyeing for not for beautification, for example, what you use a disposable napkin, right? You're not but when you wipe, I don't know, something, ketchup or wine, you're not trying to beautify the napkin, right? You're trying to clean up the spill. Okay, but if they dip something to beautify color, material would be a problem. Continue. We can better understand this Melachah by contrasting it with Melachah Koseif, writing. One would argue that since one who forms letters colors the surface upon which he writes, all writing should violate the Melachah of Coloring. Very interesting. This, however, is incorrect. The object of writing is to create characters or symbols. The color applied to the surface simply provides a medium in which the character can be performed. However, if it is no way for the object it is no way the object of the existence, object of the exercise. By contrast, the purpose of dyeing or coloring is solely to enhance and beautify the surface to which the color is applied. It is this way which is prohibited under Melachah of Coloring. The difference in definition yields the following difference in practice. One who creates colorful line drawing has violated the Melachah of writing. Okay, we'll see. One who beautifies the existing drawing by coloring violates the Melachah of Coloring. Very, very interesting. Okay, so let's go over this definition one more time, and now we try to understand much deeper. Okay, so from the beginning, definition of tzaveya, this improvement or beautification of an object by coloring and dyeing or painting it. Okay, so clearly it's for constructive purpose. You want this object to look better. Okay, but through color. Okay, so far so good. For example, threads, wool threads from which they would make not even like only covering for the Mishkan itself, right? But also what is it? The cloth of the Kohanim, Kohen Gadol at least, right? All other Kohanim would have only white, but even the white, for white you need only to dye it, right? The white, right? So they would be universal color. Okay, so continue. We can better understand this Melachah by contrasting Melachah of Koseif, writing, right? So meaning now we try to see what is the difference between color and coloring, right? And writing. Okay, so writing, it was one of the first Melachos in the first volume. One could argue that since one who forms letters colors the first surface upon which he writes, so which makes sense. So why do we care like how many Melachos person violates? Right, he violates. He's not a good person. But I'm going to tell him. I'm not sure he's not saying. But if you think it's technically it's a big deal, right? A big deal because for any violation of any of this Melachah, a person deserves death penalty. So we must know exactly if Melachah was violated, right? And if it was not like it was not his intention, this and that, it was not on the biblical level. It was on the rabbinic level. So on the rabbinic level, a person would get Malchus, right? If it was right, Malchus, meaning the stripes, meaning what? For each violation of each Melachah, he would get a separate set. So meaning the difference whether it's when person writes something, it's considered a coloring as well, right? Technically, if you think about it, you have a piece of paper and you wrote something on that piece of paper. So now this area that you wrote is colored, right? It was white, right, and became blue, right, because of the letters. So is it other two in one? So meaning person is going to get two violation or one violation. So I mean, the halachically it's a huge difference, but we need to know. So not different significance. Okay. So let's see the last sentence again. One could argue that since one forms letters, colors the surface upon which he writes, as we just explained, all writing should violate the Melachah of Coloring. Okay. So, right. So meaning, if one violates one violates another automatically. So I mean, it could be argued, right? This, however, is incorrect. The object of writing is to create characters or symbol. So meaning, as we always say, all these melachas must be done for constructive purpose. And this writing were on these huge beams that were around the Mishkan, right? And they wrote the number, like location. Western wall beam number 3, for example, or eastern or southern wall beam number 7. So you know, like exactly next time they're going to put it in the right place. So that's right. So that's what numbering, in order to know where this beam goes. So it's not for any other reason. It's not like to make the wood different color. Okay. Okay, so objective again, positive application to write letters or numbers. Okay, the color applies to its first surface. Simply provide medium in which the character can be formed. So meaning, so this the surface must have some contrast. So meaning that you would see. Otherwise, sometimes like you're playing around with word or something. And you try to change background, and now all of your letters disappeared. Why? Because your background of your text, whatever, is very similar to the color of your text, right? So it's not going to work out so well. So meaning you need some contrast, right? Some contrast, and then it's going to be good. Okay, continue. However, it is no way the object of the exercise, right? So meaning, it's not the color, the surface, but to have a contrast, right? So you can see the words or letters clearly. Okay. By contrast, the purpose of the dyeing of the color is solely to enhance and beautify the surface to which the color applies. So coloring is totally different. It's not to show you like something separate. It's significant, but to make the surface beautiful, right? To change by changing the color. That's it. Okay. Or making a similar color, right? So they would dye all of the wool white, and then after it became white, they can dye different colors, some universal color. Okay. It is this which prohibited under the Melachah of Coloring. So you see, because of the intention of how you're going to use this. Okay. This difference is the definition yields. This difference in definition yields to the following difference of practice. Right, one who creates colorful line drawing has violated the Melachah of writing. So somebody who drew the colorful line violated the Melachah of writing. So just why I'm hesitant, I'm going to explain. Maybe it is on a rabbinical level. On a biblical level, we said writing meaning some like letters or digits, of course, it's or some meaningful symbols. And we said what is not included in this prohibition is actually simple forms, right, or even lines. Okay, so for example, we're discussing icing on a cake. So if you need flowers, you cannot make, or letters, of course. Needless to say, I'm talking about the Shabbos, but simple lines, yeah, you can. Curve line, it's nothing. It's not. Maybe the difference between a cake and then writing on a piece of paper, because a cake is temporarily, for sure, people are going to eat it, and a piece of paper is permanent. That's my personal explanation. Okay, so that's a huge difference, of course. So definition of writing, something on with some substance that is not going to fade away so easily, is more or less permanent, on the surface that is more or less permanent, that is going to stay. Cake is not one of these. Okay. Continue. One who beautifies the existence drawing by coloring has violated the Melachah of Coloring. So you have a coloring books, right, for kids, right, and they color and right, so meaning they color, and so it's not drawing, it's actually coloring, meaning they like fill the figures, whatever this forms with different colors. And actually I saw some where was I? I don't remember what was it, but it was shocking. They do actually for elderly people this exercise, this coloring. Why? To keep some people who like very too old, I don't know, some mental diseases, so they would keep them occupied and make sure that they can stay like in the boundaries of line, right? So that's how we praise children, right? We give them compliments if he was able not to like go over the board, or she, right? Right. Same, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but that's reality. They do in for elderly people, and that's how they check actually like some psychiatric exercise. I think that's from where I know. Somebody told me. Okay. So next one, biblical prohibition. It's part number 3. The biblical prohibition tzavea, so meaning coloring, right, applies only when the color one applies is intended to remain permanently, right? Same as with writing, right? The precise definition of permanence in this in the context of tzavea is coloring, is a matter of debate among the authorities. Some poskim hold that color is considered permanent if it will remain until the end of Shabbos, right? And others maintain that it will remain for a significant amount of time. We follow the stringent view. Accordingly, if one applies color that is intended to last until the end of Shabbos, it is regarded as permanent and therefore prohibited under biblical law. If the color will fade within the few hours, it is regarded as temporarily and not prohibited on biblical law. Therefore, even if one colors, if the color will not fade by itself, but can easily be removed, for example, using one's hand, it is considered to be temporary. Right, so I mean, okay, so let's see quickly. What time is it? 1 second. Okay, so let's go over this number 3 again. So biblical prohibition. The biblical prohibition of tzaveh applies only when the color one applies intend to remain permanent. And the exactly the same definition we discussed in volume 1, which is a long time ago, Baruch HaShem, with writing. So it's again with the writing that is going to stay permanently. For example, the examples that we gave, writing that not going to stay permanent. He said if you have a lettuce leaf, right, and you take you dip your finger right into orange juice or something, and you write something on the leaf. Right, maybe if it's juice thick or something, it's going to stay for a few seconds, but right, but eventually it's going to fade. Or same on the window pane, right? So when it's in winter, it's steam, right? So winter's foggy. Kids like to, right? As we're children also like to draw something, or in a car, right? It's like. Right, windows become foggy and they start to draw. Of course, it's not going to stay permanent, so it's not on a biblical level. But we got the point. Okay. The precise definition of permanence in this context, the context of coloring, right, is a matter of debate among the authorities. So, meaning same we discussed. I'm going to remind you about tying a knot. So what is a permanent? So there were several opinions. So one is was until the end of the Shabbos. then 24 hours, right, and then up to 7 days. So we said temporarily, right? But after that, if person did not intend to untie this knot, so it is become permanent right away. Okay. So some poskim hold that color is considered permanent if it will remain until the end of Shabbos. So I mean, until the end of the Shabbos, I mean, it's a pretty good coloring. So it's not like this orange juice on a vegetable leaf or something, right? It's much more like permanent, right? Others maintain that it must remain for a significant amount of time. So significant amount of time, like even a few days, after 7 days, right? We follow the stringent view. Accordingly, if one applies color that intends to last until the end of Shabbos, it is regarded as permanent and therefore prohibited under the biblical law. Right. So, meaning if our rabbis say it is under the biblical law, that's what we accept. But what if we've said that other opinions that opposite? So we try not to follow these opinions. What if they're wrong? Right, right, it's possible. What if they're wrong? So if a person intended last like until the end of the Shabbos, that's the problem. So we discussed this Melachah extensively in Shabbos kitchen. So we try to spill to clean the spills, right? And he said that just to remind us, it does not apply to the food. So to the food, I mean, what is it to the food? What was the example? Okay, yeah. You're making coffee, right? It's the best example, right? You make this. What is it? This coffee, right? So you put coffee, you put water. So it's you color the water in a sense. Right, but it's not your intention, and it's food, so that's what make it allowable. Continue. If color will fade within the few hours, it is regarded as temporary, and is not prohibited by biblical law. Furthermore, even if the color will not fade by itself, but can easily be removed, for example, with one's hands. So meaning it's still like. Maybe like vegetable juice or something. You can just spill it somewhere, right, to the sink. So right, so in this case, it is only temporary, so would not be forbidden. Okay. Second, I think we can. Let's stop here. And,